This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
Binghamton Now underway with Bob Joseph on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. Is everyone accounted for? Is everybody in position? Please pay strict attention to the radio. There will be a quiz. Coming up between now and noon, our plan is to impart important information for people of the Binghamton area and beyond. You're welcome to call 607-772-1290. Stay hydrated. Reminds me, I need a beverage. My kingdom for a beverage. Well, this is interesting. I'm reluctant to bring it up because I know it'll probably adversely affect your enjoyment of life, but the former guy would not testify. TFG would not testify, would not take the stand in his own defense. So you can infer whatever you want from that, the fact that he declined. I declined to defend myself. But Mr. Guy, can't you defend yourself? Well, perchance. Now, I mean, if you were the guy's attorney, would you want him on the stand? So I understand, but I'm sure members of the jury would have enjoyed hearing the former guy, TFG, testify. But it's not necessary. It is not necessary. And the jury should be instructed not to take that into account. That doesn't imply anything about the guy's guilt or innocence. So he certainly, in the eyes of the law, he is innocent unless they manage to secure a conviction. So, and in reality, what are the odds? We gotta call our bureau chief in Vegas to find out what the odds of conviction are. I believe the odds of conviction are slim and none. I really don't think this guy is going to be convicted of anything. Not in this trial. I don't think he's going to be convicted of anything in terms of criminality between now and November. So those who are sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for a conviction somehow or somewhere, gotta tell you, it's not going to happen. So, just in case, I know for some people I've just burst your bubble. Oh, I want them behind bars. Why? We want them behind bars. We don't have money for that. This nation is spending money too aggressively anyway. We don't have money to put a former guy behind bars. So anyway, the closing arguments are scheduled for next Tuesday. So we have 6 days of blessed relief where we don't have to hear any more antics outside the courthouse, outside the courtroom. What bothers me most about the statements the defendant makes before and after court session or during breaks, it's not really the content, it's the quality of the audio. I mean, the audio always sounds so bad. And it seems to me that the defendant's team ought to invest maybe $50 or $100 in a good microphone, one of those wireless microphones that all the kids are using in their podcasts. Get them one of those $100 microphones and pin it to them. Or have him pin it to himself. And that way, the audio could be transmitted wirelessly, and it would be flawless. It would sound great. Sadly, the sound quality that we've been subjected to is subpar, and it's not befitting. Even a former guy should have high quality audio. It's Wednesday morning. Bob Joseph starting things off with court news. We'll focus on some local things coming right up. This is your show, so if you have things to talk about. Oh, look, here's someone who wants to talk about something. Good morning, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Tom from Endwell.
Hey, good morning, Tom.
Good morning. So you're talking about the whole Trump, coming to the podium and stuff. How come you don't mention all the lies that Cohen's been telling and even stealing, as of what we know now, up to, what was it, $60,000?
What do you mean, how come I don't mention? I've mentioned it. Do you listen to the program every day?
Didn't hear it.
Do you listen to the program every day?
Well, not every day, Bob. I got to work.
No, I understand. Thankfully, there are people who actually have a work ethic and go out in America and get things done, so I admire that. I definitely have mentioned Michael Cohen's problems with the truth, and I earlier this week mentioned him stealing from his employer, so never let it be said that I don't bring up some of the less savory things about some of the witnesses.
Yeah, that and the judge just keeps, when they had this guy on stand, the judge wouldn't even let him speak. Weird how that works. I mean, I think the reason why they don't have it on TV is because they don't want the world to see what a sham our court system are, especially at the highest level like this. I think they want to try to keep that from the people so they can spin their own narrative after the fact.
I don't believe it's a sham. I believe it's a shame. And the fact is, it's not, New York's rules are not enforced just for this trial. These are New York State rules for all trials. So New York State New York is one of the few states in the USA today that will not allow radio and TV coverage of trials. And this is Exhibit A and why that law has to be changed. I think it needs to be changed immediately. I think whether it's Kathy Hochul issuing an executive order or someone just saying, hey, that's an antiquated rule, and that the default position for all trials in New York State, the default should be they should be allowed to be on radio and TV unless there's a good, compelling case. There are some types of trials that might not be appropriate for live broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it'd be interesting if the Republicans were going after the Democratic president. I'm sure the Democrats would have a whole lot to say.
Well, of course they would. Of course they would. But the fact is, this is a Republican former guy. He's not a Democrat former guy. If New York prosecutors were going against Barack Hussein Obama or William Jefferson Clinton, you can bet the Democrats would be enraged.
Yeah, and, the last time I was speaking to you about them gagging Trump, and you had said to the next caller, yeah, if anybody else was to do that, they'd be in jail. Do you see how many people are talking trash about him? All over the liberal media. You got Cohen making millions of dollars off podcasts, trashing Trump, saying all kinds of lies. How come they're not arresting any of those people if what you say is true?
Because they're not involved in the trial. If you're involved in the trial, whether you're the former guy or the former guy's attorneys or even the prosecutors or the jurors or even the judge, they're not allowed to spout off in public. That's just not done.
Cohen is.
He's not talking. He's not doing any interviews before and after his testimony.
He's not doing any podcasts?
I don't know. if he's doing a podcast, I haven't heard it. He shouldn't. Let's put it this way. If he's doing a podcast right now as the trial continues, the judge ought to shut that down. So if that's true, and I just don't know if he's doing that, but if it's true, he ought to stop it.
Well, they played it in the court.
Well, then that was before he testified, right? He didn't say it. See, I don't know, because since they won't put it on radio and TV, I miss a lot of what goes on every day. So has he actually been doing interviews and podcasts during the trial?
He's done a couple.
Okay, well then he shouldn't. Anybody involved in the trial, Michael Cohen, the former guy, the judge, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, nobody should be doing podcasts or interviews during the trial. It just is wrong.
Well, I'm waiting for the big courts to step in.
Oh yeah, the big courts that are stacked. Ultimately, if these cases wind up going to the Supreme Court, we know how it's going to go because it's stacked. He stacked the court. So the system in that case is completely rigged. That's why he appointed all those fine justices. It wasn't because they were high quality jurist, it's because he knew, or had every reason to believe, that at some point, because of his shenanigans, things would wind up going before the Supreme Court, and then they would rule. And when they rule, they'll decide in his favor. That's how America works for you. It's 9:24. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to News Radio WNBF. And Binghamton Now continues at 9:40. Wednesday morning, I'm Bob Joseph. We welcome back the program, Ron Saul. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Great. Thanks for popping by.
A pleasure.
I spoke with you on Tuesday afternoon because we see the likelihood, unfortunately, that a long-time business that has been a fixture here on Court Street in our neighborhood, I call it Mr. Joseph's neighborhood as though I have anything to do with it, but one of our neighbors may soon be closing his store. It's at least the end of a long chapter with the M&D Arnott store, and David Bradstreet told me yesterday afternoon at this point he's planning to shut down his store on June 10th.
Well, I didn't know the exact date, but we have been talking for, Dave and I have been talking because, you know, like you said, it's a fixture. It was Planters Peanuts store years and years ago, and when Planters Peanuts was putting stores in all these towns. And then we had Mike Yasinchek, who was the regional sales manager for Planters. They said they were going to shut down the stores. He offered to buy this store from them, and he ran it very successfully for many, many, many years until he decided to retire, and he sold it to Marie and Doris, hence M&D Arnott's. And they did a beautiful job. They brought in a gift basket concept and holiday trays. You know, they worked very hard, and they did a great job. And Doris passed away, Marie passed away.
Marie died, and she was very young when she died.
Yeah, she had they both worked, I think, for NYSEG, and they both retired from NYSEG to focus on this. They did a great job. They were terrific. They were great to the customers. They had some new ideas and things like that. So then they, after Marie died, Doris hung on there for a little while, and then she decided she wanted to retire also. And David Bradstreet, who was with the Cornell Cooperative for many years, came along, and I think he did a fine job. This last year, health issues and things like that in his life made it hard for him to focus on, going forward with the store.
One of the things he told me when we chatted yesterday afternoon is, of course, in you as a business operator here downtown with Saul Stearns, you certainly experienced this as well. During COVID, things changed. I mean, obviously for several weeks things were paused. We have a situation now, or even though we're sort of, I'm using air quotes now, back to normal, well, we're not back to normal, not the way it was pre-COVID. And you and David Bradstreet and other business operators certainly have experienced this as more people still are working from home and not, I mean, a lot of people have returned to offices in downtown areas like Binghamton, but a lot of businesses never went back to anything approaching their full staffing. So that has an impact on restaurants, on gift shops, on clothing stores. I mean, let's face it, if somebody is going to be able to do his work at home, whether it's 5 days a week or 2 or 3 days a week, he may not have to look quite as snappy as he did before COVID. So that has an impact on your business. It's had an impact on every business.
Well, that's very true. COVID was a very difficult time period. I tell the story that March of 2020 was a fairly decent day. April 2020 wasn't a bad week. It just wasn't a good week. But things got back way past normal, and there was a big growth in our business, between the end of 21 and now, still going on. So it's attributed to their businesses that went out to do similar to us. People are not trusting sometimes the internet to shop for the better clothing. We offer, some of the best lines in the industry, the Tommy Bahamas, the Johnny O's, the Jack Victors, and things like that, and Johnson Murphy shoes. So we're doing fine, but I could see where it was hard for him, because all of a sudden you go online and get a pound of cashews shipped to your house, or brought to your house by Amazon or whoever the carriers are that are free and willing to do it. Except at the holiday times when you would notice you couldn't even get into M&DR Nuts. It was so crowded in there.
Well, and that's what it became. He told me in recent years, he would have to wait truly till the end of the year, the season between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and to see if he was going to actually have a profitable year. And you could tell just from our chat yesterday off the air that it gets frustrating to not know for sure, say, if 2024 is going to be a success, or if things don't go well during the holiday season, to salvage things, are you going to wind up with a net deficit for the year? And,
well, it's been tough on Dave because he's had hip and knee issues, and you got to be on your feet. Does your energy level come up to? There are things he could do to increase the business, through social media, mailing, shipping. I mean, it's a fabulous product. It's just, you got to have that energy level. And, Dave is a wonderful guy, always great to do business with. Me personally, I give away so much of that product to customers and friends, and the holiday times. It's just, it's such a shame to not have that component to the downtown.
What he did say is there are still a couple of options up in the air. And it seems to me that maybe M&DR Nuts in some form, and probably not at this location, because I also talked to Rich David yesterday, and Rich is the owner of the building at 45 Court Street. So he has a vision for that space, the space that's been occupied by the nut shop and also the restaurant, the Curries of India restaurant that closed last year. So the former mayor has a vision, and he's owned this building since 2006. So there are other potential spaces for a nut shop here in downtown Binghamton, it seems to me. Now, whether that's viable or not, I don't know. I don't know the first thing about running business, but it just in the past 12 or 16 hours since we put out the news story, I've heard such an outpouring of love and memories for this shop. It would be wonderful if somehow someone was able to acquire the business and the equipment and be able to move to someplace nearby to sort of continue this legacy.
Well, as we talked yesterday, I've offered to buy it. The problem is, I personally think it belongs in the space it's in. Willing to take over the other space where Currys of India has been vacant for a year or two, take over that space, pay an upgraded rent structure, because I believe in fairness. If Rich David's going to allow that, he's entitled to get compensated accordingly. Some of the, Currys of India and M&D Arnauds have been kind of grandfathered into a lower rent structure than should be in the downtown, and justifiably so. Other locations, Rich David came to me and explained, knowing that I was, willing to buy it, explained that he had a different vision, although he didn't, say what it was, which is it's his building. He can do what he wants. He's done many great things for this area, either as a mayor or as a private investor. And I just didn't see where it would work for what I thought. There was something about people going there, knowing where it is. We had mentioned something on maybe Front Street. The other thing is, I'm a businessman. You got to keep your eye on your businesses. So I was never more than 100 yards away from it. And I had people that were going to be working with me in either financial capacity and or work capacity. And we were going to do some interesting things, like bring in a selection of the chocolatier, our famous Leopold the chocolatier, bring in a selection of his things, add some other things to the selection. And I have a friend who's great on social media, and we could try to, send more product out, things like that. So
yeah, I have my own ideas. Not that anybody asked me, but just even based on what you said over the last 15 seconds, those ideas and building even on that vision, I can see where sort of, dare I say, a nut shop for the 21st century, a nut shop and more. And right. Nut shop, ice cream, chocolates.
That was it.
Yeah. And it's, you could see, and again, with the right vision, you hire a young whippersnapper who knows everything about social media, and you start putting it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and before you know it, suddenly people are, wow, I forgot the place was here. And what I've learned since publishing the story on Tuesday afternoon is so many people, dozens if not hundreds of people have already commented, oh, I have so many fine memories. I have fine memories. When I was a kid living in Edwell, when we were allowed usually once a year to go to the big city, Binghamton, have memories, faint memories, but memories of the Mr. Peanut outside the nut shop then. And it's, when you think about it, decades later, it's those memories that stay with us, whether it was the symbol, the iconic symbol, Mr. Peanut, or the wonderful aroma of fresh roasted nuts, whether it's peanuts or cashews or whatever, is the type of thing you can't replicate. You cannot fake that.
No, and that could be brought back. The roasters are there, the cooking things are there. I'm not a big, I don't know what condition they're in, and that was part of the risk you take when you try to enter into a business agreement. There's, sides that you have to be patient with, and I thought that's where it belonged because of that. I mean, I've been coming downtown since I was like 5-6 years old, which is a long time ago. And, Mr. Peanut standing out there handing out. And his mother used to work there. The guy that used to, on Saturdays, was Mr. Peanut. I knew him, but I can't, his mother used to work there for many years. And, he would stand there, and the game with me and my friends would be to go buy it as much as we can and get as much peanuts as we can. And then, my dad, when we go to a baseball game, for the Triplets baseball game, he'd always stop and get a couple bags of peanuts for us. It's just that I have a great picture I found the other day of my two elderly aunts, and I in the store, and I'm getting them candy and stuff. It's just so many fond memories.
The interesting thing to me, when I was doing research over the last few days for the story, this was not the original location for the nut shop. It's been there at that location at 45 Court Street since February 1939, but before that it was actually a little bit toward the west at 35.5 Court Street. And I believe after Christmas in 1938, they moved over to where the shop has been since. So it's been a fixture at that site for 85 years. It's amazing. Just like when it is, well, not an exact equivalent, but it sort of reminds me of when the CVS store closed at 34 Court Street. There had been a pharmacy there, a drugstore, in one form or another for 97 years. For all those years before CVS took over, it was the Hamlins, a drugstore owned by the Hamlin family. So people of a certain age will say, yeah, I remember those Hamlin drugstores all across the Triple Cities. So I always think no matter what the business is, any business that lasts longer than about 5 years becomes an institution. We see a lot of people. Well, you know how hard it is. We see people try to start businesses, and let's face it, sometimes the toughest part is still being around in 90 days. If you don't know about business, not just I've got enough money for the space, I have enough money for the equipment, I have enough money to pay people for the first 30 or 45 days, and then you don't figure out all the other costs, including promotion and so on. Some businesses, sadly, don't make it beyond 3 months or 6 months or a year.
Yep. No,
and so these businesses like yours, the family-owned Saul Stearns, what year did your clothing store start?
We started in September 20th, 1929.
Right. And you've been at this location now where you are. I always say it used to be Hardee's. This is our third location.
Yes.
Used to be Hardee's. Right. September 5th, 1996, you told me.
Yep.
Amazing. Ron Saul, thanks for stopping by. I expect that you'll be back soon to talk about a couple of other things, including July Fest.
You bet. And thank you, Bob, for giving me the opportunity to talk more about this subject we're talking about today. It's, as you could realize, it's in your heart, it's in my heart, it's a lot of people's heart.
Yeah, we left downtown Binghamton. Ron Saul, live in our studio on News Radio, WNBF. This is Wednesday, May 22nd. Yes, less than a month until summer. Then the living will be easy. Listening to Binghamton Now, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming online at WNBF.com. On this Wednesday morning, we welcome back to the program Michael Marinaccio, the Town of Dickinson supervisor. Hi.
Hi.
What's the state of the town?
State of the town is good. It's very, very good. It's been a long time since I've been on. I just realized it's been months and months.
Well, it's been a real long time since you've been here in the studio.
Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay.
I was being cured.
Well, hey, things happen.
Things happen.
Yeah, and it's great to have you back in the studio.
Thank you.
Give us sort of... here we are almost at the midpoint of 2024. Surprisingly, the first,
crazy.
We are nearly through the first 5 months of the year. So generally speaking, what are the top issues, say the top 3 issues that you think are of the most interest to Dickinson residents today?
Well, one of them definitely is making sure that we deal with our absentee landlords. It's becoming a major problem. It has been a major problem over the years, and to be honest with you, at times it seems to get even worse. We have excellent code enforcement and dealing with all of these issues that we see and it's 99% absentee landlords. And in some cases, the homes get so bad you're close to condemning them. So that puts a lot of strain on not only our code enforcement, but our courts, our town board members, and of course the neighbors, because they're adversely affected by this, living next door to trash and debris and homes falling apart and so forth. So that's one of our biggest problems. The other issue that we've had, and if you want to call it an issue, is we have pretty high rates with water and sewer because we depend on other entities to supply those services. So we're doing all that we can to either maintain our costs or to even bring them down. which is a tough thing to do, especially today with rising costs for everything. So our water supply comes from, I believe, 3 or 4 different sources: Shenango, Binghamton, Johnson City, Town of Union, and Binghamton being the highest cost. Good water. They're all good water sources. And of course, there's the Binghamton Johnson City sewage treatment plant.
One of our favorite topics.
Over
the last 12 and a half years.
Yeah. I mean, people pay more for water and sewer rates than they do for their taxes in the town of Dickinson, which, of course, maybe that's kind of normal depending on your usage, but it's a challenge. So we're doing all we can. We renegotiated a contract with the town of Shenango. That brought our costs down by approximately $75,000. We initiated a maintenance fee on our bills that we send out, and hopefully we'll be able to get enough money put aside so that sometime in the near future we'll be able to reduce the rates, but at the very least maintain them where they are today. And the third, of course, is just keeping the town up to date, roads, sewer systems, water systems. That's an every year project for us. Constant renovation of water and sewer systems.
And I know from talking with all local government officials, people love to complain about the condition of their street or a sidewalk or whatever, or in some cases where municipalities are having water issues. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when we hear the complaints, whether it's people who call the program or communicate with me in other ways, I usually wind up saying, well, here's the thing. Most of the officials, whether it's your town or village or the city of Binghamton or county-related issues, sure, they're acutely aware of the problems. And A, in most cases, they didn't create the problems. And B, they would love to take care of all those problems instantly. And C, there's just no money to do all that needs to be done. I mean, I'm serious. Even in a small town like Dickinson, even if somebody, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or someone, dropped off $1 billion and said, here's $1 billion to fix every infrastructure need, I'm not sure every infrastructure need, even in the town of Dickinson, could be would make a good dent in it, but still, $1 billion doesn't go as far as it used to.
Well, let me tell you, if Jeff wants to give the town of Dickinson $1 billion, I could make good use of it. And
you would document it, you would take videos, and the same with Elon Musk. You know, if any of these billionaires who are listening want to donate to Broome County towns or villages or even the city, feel free. And we certainly would do a very flattering story, but obviously the odds of that happening seem, we'll just say, highly unlikely.
Well, we have a very proactive highway department, and in our highway superintendent, public works commissioner, he knows the conditions of our streets and our water and our sewer lines, and we have a great person who actually oversees the water and sewer systems. So we don't get a lot of phone calls and a lot of complaints, and the reason being is that we plan ahead. And we know what we're going to be doing for the next 4 or 5 years. Now, obviously, there's emergencies, water line breaks, or something collapses, and you deal with that. And those unexpected things will take a little bite out of your budget, but at the same time, they have to be fixed. So,
speaking with the town of Dickinson supervisor, Michael Marinaccio. Well, I know there was a case, might have been last summer, where the crews were working on a project, I think in Sunrise Terrace, and they discovered a situation that actually needed to be rectified quickly. It wouldn't make sense to leave something undone, and I believe after I saw a notice of a special town board meeting, I contacted you, and right. At first I thought, the town of Dickinson is merging with the city of Binghamton. Wow, this will make all the headlines. And it turned out that it was for a very specific reason that money had to be approved to address a matter that had been discovered.
Yeah, you're exactly right. While we were working on the project, we discovered that all the laterals that went to the homes on Sunrise Drive had to be replaced. that was old technology and done cheaply. Again, thanks to our water department guy and our highway superintendent, it had to be addressed. So instead of being $1 million project, it turned out to be about a $1.3 million project. And we had to borrow the money.
Well, that's unfortunately. What I point out to people regarding whether it's infrastructure or even potential chemical contamination, the more you look, the more you're going to find.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you start looking underground, whether it's old infrastructure or start testing for possible contamination, I can pretty much guarantee you're probably going to find something. And the thing is, once you find it and once you've documented it, it can't be ignored.
You better fix it.
Yeah, I mean, well, we just found high levels of PFAS in our water, but we're not going to tell anyone. Well,
can't do that.
Good luck with that.
No, you can't do that.
It's 10:20. This is News Radio WNBF. Coming up, we'll talk about more Town of Dickinson issues with Michael Marinaccio on our Wednesday program. I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now on 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com. Our guest in the studio is Michael Marinaccio, the Town of Dickinson supervisor. You mentioned about sometimes properties that are in less than stellar shape. I'm looking back on a story we did almost 2 years ago, and somebody called it the garbage garage. You remember the garbage garage on Bevere Street, where it was a giant garage filled to capacity. Yeah. Or it was Bigelow Street.
Yes, correct.
I misspoke. So, even I went over and
it was
not much phases me, but man, that was a lot of garbage.
It was a lot of garbage. It took a while, but we got it cleaned up.
Oh yeah. I went over after a few days after we reported the story. Fortunately, there was a giant dumpster, a big red dumpster, and the garbage was finally removed. But as you suggested earlier, there are a lot of properties. Maybe they're not loaded with trash, but they have other issues that make for an unpleasant neighborhood condition.
Yeah, I mean, I think recently, last year, we ended up demolishing a house on Pulaski Street that was actually made the house over in Bigelow look nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we finally were able to condemn it, which is a costly process. And then have it demolished, which was a costly process.
Well, that's another thing, is Gorick and LCP, they don't work for free.
No.
And even a small home demolition is still probably going to be $20,000 or $30,000.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Are there other buildings right now in the town that are on the horizon possibly to be removed? Anything that is at such a high priority?
Nothing immediate, but there are a few houses. I won't mention where they are.
Right.
But there are a few that I would like to see demolished.
ARPA money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does the town of Dickinson have any ARPA money left?
Can I tell you a funny story about the ARPA funds?
Please.
So before we received those funds, it was quite a while ago, a certain senator who represents New York, we did a Zoom call with him. Nice guy. I've met him many, many times, and he was telling us how much money we were going to be getting. Town of Dickinson, town of Conklin. So when he got to my town, he says, yep, town of Dickinson, $1.3 million. And I'm sitting there thinking, no way. That cannot be correct. $1.3 million? No way. And I challenged the senator. And he said, nope, we got the money for you, Mike. $1.3 million you're going to be getting. Wrong. After maybe another couple of weeks or so, they discovered that when the feds were putting their figures together, they forgot to include the villages in the total country.
Right.
Not just Broome County. So my $1.3 million turned out to be $357,000.
See,
and that's what I.
$1.3 million would have been a game changer. It
would have been a game changer for us, for sure. And you can only use that money for certain things.
Sure.
And so we used it, and we spent it all. We had to conclude this program last month, April 24th or whatever it was. And you go online, and there's a bunch of forms that you have to fill out, and we had some assistance with that. It was a bit complicated, but we got through it. The money was used for many infrastructure projects. I'll give you some examples. You couldn't use it for lowering taxes, which would have been very nice to do, but we did a water line replacement over on Pineview. We ended up putting in pressure valve replacements, which is a much needed thing for us to do for water. Control panels for our sewer, heat cables and gutters for our roofing arrangement at our town hall, and I believe our highway garage. We needed that desperately. Let's see. We bought some billing software. This is going to make a world of difference when we're doing our billing for water and sewer. We put snow retention devices up on the roof, which we needed, and enforcement software. And there's a few other smaller projects, but we end up spending a little bit more than what we were allotted, which we paid for. So to me, the money was well spent. And we would keep people abreast as to where we were with the funds at our town board meetings, and I never heard a complaint about how the money was being spent.
Well, I called you a couple weeks ago because a listener had advised me, this is not exactly on topic, but it just occurs to me, about this little bridge that, remember, yes, the Sunrise. And I'm thinking, because she had mentioned it, so a couple days after she called, because I wanted to go see the little bridge.
The little bridge,
I think it's off Adams Street.
Adams Drive, not far from the world famous hamburger stand. I won't use their name because they have a hamburger stand over there with arches and stuff. Hamburger stand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they sell Shamrock Shakes. I won't mention the place by name.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, because I'll protect their privacy due to HIPAA. They don't want to be embarrassed that they're selling filetto fishes and Shamrock Shakes, but probably by now some people have deduced what we're talking about. But not far from there, not far from the intersection of Old Front and Front Streets, there's this little pathway that goes from Adams Drive out over to Old Front Street, I believe.
That's correct.
And it's got a beautiful little bridge, and you told me that was, I believe, a result of the Community Association.
Yes, exactly. The Community Association had this idea. One of the members of the Community Association is an engineer. And we said, sure, it sounds like a beautiful project, and it turned out to be a beautiful project. You have to be careful what you do when you're building anything over or near the ponds. And that, that turned out to be a little bit of an issue. We got DEC involved in it, and yes, we should have called them first. We didn't. It wasn't our project. It was a Sunrise Terrace project, and we oversaw it. So we were, as far as I'm concerned, we were the ones that were responsible for it. But we were able to take care of things with DEC, and now there's this very pretty wooden bridge with railings that people can use to go from Adams Drive over the small pond, not the large pond, but the small pond. And there's just a small area that used to be a pathway. And then once you cross that, you end up on Old Front Street. And then you can go to your hamburger stand or your nearby hotel.
Sure. I'll go to the hamburger stand and get a filetto fish.
Yeah. I love those. Or
one of their third pounders.
Third pounder?
Yeah, because of inflation. Really like,
excuse me?
What, a third pounder? What happened to the quarter pounder?
Well,
inflation out of control, man.
Jeez.
It's 10:30 at WNBF and WNBF.com. I went on a Friday morning, I went for a beautiful walk, and maybe I'll wind up doing a story just to check out that bridge. And it was so tranquil, and knowing just not that far away is the interchange, the Exit 5 interchange, the highway. And by the way, I commend you on the roundabouts that you built. Good work.
I built.
And I know our friends over at the DOT are saying, what?
Yeah, I engineered them. I built them. One lady who you talked with a lot called them the Marinaccio circles.
Hey,
Or Marinaccio roundabout. No, that was a New York Department of Transportation project. And I think they turned out great.
Well, I think they're great. When it was first just being proposed and looking at the sketches and what the DOT put out. At first, I'm thinking, I don't know if that's going to be so great. And turns out, yeah, it's the greatest thing in my mind. Now, since I don't live in the town of Dickinson, I'll say there was someone who does reporting in the town of Dickinson, and oftentimes I pass through, maybe I'm going to town of Shenango or other points. Those roundabouts are fantastic. I would say, I know somebody, one of our sensitive viewers is going to say, but Bob, roundabouts are bad. It's part of some kind of plot. Yeah, it's part of a plot to make life better.
Or they create tornadoes, according to...
Yeah, according to that, And WNBF will continue to always... I speaking on behalf of myself only, not as a representative of the station or the people who own this place, I'll always shake my head at that story. But...
Yeah, the roundabouts, they're a wonderful thing, and they serve a lot of different purposes. And they're definitely safer than what we had there before. But people need to know what the rules are when you're navigating to and around a roundabout. Once you're on that circle, you have the right of way, not the person that's trying to get into it. And that doesn't always work.
Well, it also means once you're in the circle, don't stop. Because other motorists, the people behind you, aren't going to expect you to stop and wave like somebody in from, no, that's not how it works.
Stop.
Then all you have to do is look over to your left, because that's where traffic will be coming from. I mean, you can, situational awareness, also watch what's going on the right, but most importantly, keep an eye on the left. If there's no traffic coming, go ahead, enter the circle, and enjoy. And then keep moving.
And they keep moving.
Move to the next circle. So, is there something, I'm not sure, and I've been meaning to check with DOT, are they planning to make any kind of an adjustment to one of the circles? Because over the winter and early spring months, I saw they had orange and white barrels at one of the roundabouts, and I wasn't sure if there had been any kind of issues, whether it was trucks or other lane markings or anything. Had you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything. I know that there's been a few signs that have been knocked down by trucks on the circle. Kind of sounds familiar downtown here.
Yeah.
And those are a good size. Both those circles are pretty good size. And you get these trucks that some of them are huge. And if they navigate around that circle too close to the actual circle itself, to the center part, they're going to knock the sign down. So maybe they're doing something with the signage so that it doesn't keep happening. I don't know. Also, I think they were doing some last-minute work on the crossing and the traffic safety signals for people who want to cross.
Well, that could be.
Yeah, they might have been working on that.
And how have people adapted to the splendid and what appears to be a safe pedestrian walkway that's now part of that project?
I think so. I mean, you need to pay attention. I mean, you shouldn't be going more than 15 or 20 miles an hour. And once you approach that circle, you just need to be cognizant of what's going on. If you see somebody that looks like they're getting ready to cross, and especially when they hit the crossing button, you better stop. You better stop. I don't care where you are on that circle. You need to stop so they can cross. So they're going to cross either across Old Front Street, or they're going to cross Front Street where the gardens are to the opposite corner. That's where they're going to cross. And sometimes you see them crossing from the gardens all the way past the exits 5, ramps 5. So they got to be careful there because there's no sidewalks there.
Well, when I say whether it's pedestrians, bicyclists, or people on unicycles, along with people driving cars and trucks, everybody should be aware of the situation. Pay attention to each other. And just because you're using one mode of transportation, whether you're walking or driving, doesn't mean you're the almighty. You are working to get along, because if everybody cooperates, whether it's at roundabouts or highway on-ramps or whatever, everybody cooperates, everything works fine.
Absolutely.
And it's not rocket science.
Absolutely. Before the roundabouts and you had to wait at the traffic signal, sometimes you waited 5, 6, 7 minutes, depending on the time of day, because those traffic signals were signatized based on traffic flow. Today, if you stand there for 30 seconds to a minute, that's a long time, most of the time. So everybody's in a hurry. I'm not sure where they're going. I'm really not sure. They're going to work, are they mad, they're going home, or they're just not going anywhere.
Probably late for their meeting with their parole officer.
That's a strong possibility.
Punctuality is important.
It sure is.
10:36. We'll talk more with Michael Marinaccio. Things in the town of Dickinson. This is Binghamton Now on Wednesday morning. I'm Bob Joseph at WNBF.
Roger Neal.
Right, Roger Neal. And you actually approached Roger Neal and said, I'd like to do a show,
I have
Rog.
an idea. Well, we're good friends.
Sure.
And he goes, I think Tony Russell was the host. And I said, I'd like to do a show called What's Happening in Broome County. And I would maybe once a week update people on what I know, what's going on, and maybe have a guest. But then I was taking your place, and that was
I don't.
You're What's Happening in Broome County.
Well, yeah, and Eastern Tioga County, and occasionally a little, sometimes there might be some overlap in Susquehanna. I'll go to Pennsylvania if need be, see what's going on there, see if they've lowered their gas prices.
You realize I've been spending a lot of time in Pennsylvania?
Oh, really?
You want to know why? Because I'm the district governor of Unico. It's Pennsylvania too, and there's four chapters, and I'm district governor, and 3 out of the 4 are in Pennsylvania.
Really?
So I have to go to each one of those chapters and do quarterly meetings with them.
Oh, okay. Well, buy your gas in New York.
Oh, yeah. It used to be cheaper down there.
Yeah,
no,
it used to be.
Not anymore.
I keep wanting to send a memo to Governor Hochul and to the leaders of our legislature. In case you didn't know, we've missed the boat. Our gas taxes are lower now than in Pennsylvania. I mean, this is the time to adjust, never increase. Adjust the gas taxes so we're at least comparable with Pennsylvania, but,
That was like a couple, 2-3 years ago then.
It's a missed opportunity for New York revenue. All the additional revenue could be provided to New York towns. How about that? Yeah. Suddenly, Michael Marinaccio is saying, I think it's a great idea.
That's a hell of an idea.
Yeah, controversial, but yeah.
Do they still have the limits on the gas tax? Up to a certain dollar amount?
No, I think they expired.
They all expired?
I believe.
The county had one and the state had one.
Yeah, I think it lasted for X amount of months.
Well, in reality, that affected the local governments because there was less taxes we were getting.
Yeah, well.
Sales tax. We live by sales tax.
Yeah, well, always think of the, as I say, unintended consequences.
That's right.
Let's talk about old schools in the town of Dickinson. One old school was on my radar. It sounds like a Steely Dan song. One old school. My old school on Prospect Street, right. 370 Prospect Street. St. Stan's Elementary School. Well, that place hasn't been a school in a long time. And at one point, it got so ugly that I sent a crew over, as in I went over there myself.
You were the crew.
Yeah. I am the crew. And so I took pictures. Windows were smashed. I mean, you could have gained access. If I wanted to go in there, I could have had a Binghamton Now party inside this vacant building.
Doors were wide open.
It was, as they say, an attractive nuisance.
Yeah.
So what is the status of that property?
Actually, it still is. But, I can tell you that I think the last time I talked to you, I mentioned that we were going to be doing an inspection, a thorough inspection inside and outside of the building. And we met with the owners who own the church that's down near the corner there. And they let us in, which we could have just walked in anyway. And, the interior, it's quite a mess. All the paint's flaked off the walls, and it's a big mess in the interior. But what we were really interested in is, number one, making sure the building was locked down. Windows were boarded up, doors were boarded up, to keep the unwanted out of that building. What we did find during a fire inspection is the front wall inside the structure, it deteriorated. And it deteriorated from drainage. So what was happening is there's old technology. The downspouts that were draining water off the roof were going into the walls. So they created an issue that had to be fixed. It was a structural deficiency. That was taken care of. And what the owners of the building did was they hired a engineering firm, which was a good thing. And then the engineering firm made certain recommendations, and they followed through with getting all of the structural issues remedied. So that's taken care of. So the building is sound. Windows are boarded up, doors are boarded up, and so that's taken care of, and it's no longer an issue for code and fire and so forth. However, we'd like to know what's going to happen with that building. There might be somebody interested. As you know, Bob, people find value in certain properties and make them nice. I wish somebody would take it over to do whatever they can do with that building. But right now we have no idea what plans are, if there are any plans at all.
Well, it's too bad because the building, according to the Cornerstone, was constructed in 1960. So it's not that old.
It's not that old, no.
And, actually, no, that was, let me stand corrected, because I think that was when they modernized or put an addition or something on. I think.
No, you're right. The building is older than that.
The original building, I think, was 1917, but they upgraded it.
They upgraded it around 1960, I believe, somewhere around.
Yep. So it seems like it has potential.
Well,
maybe.
I mean, I don't know. Again, a lot of that construction was old technology. Years ago when they built buildings, they were made to last. I don't think this building was built to be made to last. It just, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I get that sense too. So at least it's on the town's radar.
It's on our radar. One of the issues is where it's located. So if they were ever to demolish that building, you have to deal with the neighbors. Very close by, very close proximity. How would you tear the building down? You maybe attack it from Prospect Street. It would be a very tricky situation. I know it could be done. Anything can be done if you want to pay for it. Well, right now there's nobody interested in that building, and there's no plans for it.
All right. Well, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Now, also not far from there, on Adams Street, the fabulous St. Anne's School that's been vacant for a long time. And I know we reported a few years ago, about 3 years ago, that Fairview Recovery Services was planning to expand operations into that unused school building.
Yeah.
And looking here at property records, apparently Fairview, it's interesting. It's one part of the property still is listed for St. Anne's, but another part shows Fairview Recovery Services acquired some part of that for $65,000 about 2 years ago.
That's correct.
So has anything happened there yet?
Not in the second phase. I mean, they took over, which I believe might have been the old convict or rectory for the church. They took that over, and that was great. That was a welcome thing.
Because they have an existing program over on the other side on Prospect.
They do, and so we were thrilled. They went through the process for the second phase, and it went through the planning board, and the planning board had made a bunch of recommendations, which Fairview approved, and they were going to do it. And then since then, when everything was all said and done, nothing has happened. So I'm not really sure. It might be a funding issue. It might be I have no idea. There hasn't been any communication. I mean, there's no issues as far as I know with the building itself. The building's in great shape. They were going to make some changes to accommodate a number of apartments that they were going to put there. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing you go through that process and all of a sudden everything comes to a complete stop.
It's 10:48. We're talking with Michael Marinaccio, the Town of Dickinson supervisor. I see there's work underway for a big solar farm in the town of Dickinson.
Yes.
Tell me about this.
Two solar farms.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me, first of all, the one that I just visited yesterday was
the one by the cemetery?
Yeah, off Glenwood Road. So
that was approved 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I had forgotten about that, but I see they have started clearing the trees.
They're clear cutting, which obviously people don't like to see trees being cut down, but it's part of life. And this project, it came to a halt because of COVID. And now that COVID supposedly is over, they came back. I mean, all the approvals were done. The site plan was approved. And all they had to do was go through a few other things with assessment and so forth and a building permit. All that's been done. So that it usually takes about 3-4 months, maybe 5 months to get it all completed with the solar panels. And then the second project, which is a little further up Glenwood Road, and that one there you might not be able to see readily, but it's up there. I can't give you the exact address. And that's a 20-acre project with, I think it's 5 megawatts, similar to the one by the cemetery, just under 5 megawatts.
Who are the people doing it? Are they the same?
No, they're not. They're not the
entities?
same. No, they're not. Two different entities.
All right. So has work started on that one further up, Glenwood?
Yes. Yep. They cleared the property, and now they have to, because we changed. If you recall, we had another moratorium done. And the reason why we did the moratorium, many people have asked, just like a lot of the other towns have done, we had at least 4 to 5 different companies wanting to put solar projects up in that area. And that area is a residential area. So we said, you know what, we need to take a breath. We need to take a look at our local law dealing with solar projects and maybe make some changes, which we did. And fortunately for the person who started the process of putting the second project up there, it did not affect him. So he's happy, we're happy. All of the safeguards are going to be put in place with additional screenage and so forth. So yeah, that project needs a few more, they need to go through a few more things with the planning board, and that should be up and running, I would say within the next couple of months.
So that's the one further up.
Further up.
Okay.
So yeah, our little town's going to have 2 solar projects, and that's it. No more.
And both 5 megawatt?
Yes.
All right. How many acres for the one that they have just started recently, the clear cutting near the cemetery?
It's under 5 acres.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's under 20 acres.
Oh, okay. I was going to say 5 acres. That's.
I'm thinking megawatts.
Yeah. So for both of these, I mean, will people passing by on either Glenwood or anywhere else in the town of Dickinson, will they likely see much of anything?
No, the one up by the cemetery, I don't think you're going to see it at all. You might, but I doubt it because it's so high up.
Yeah, I went there yesterday taking pictures, and to get access is not simple or quick.
Simple, no.
To see where the work is underway.
I mean, years ago, that area was cited to have homes and apartments, not apartments, but single-family homes and garden homes. But that fell through. And so now it's going to be a solar project. And don't call them solar farms. I discovered that if you're talking to a farmer and you say solar farm, they'll smack you.
I'm just wondering why the last farmer I saw
You're not
gave me a spec.
Yeah, they don't like that.
He didn't say why, but now, okay.
Yeah, call it a project.
But attention farmers, attention Kmart farmers, this is true. If I do a story about any solar project, there's a high probability in the headline. It might say solar farm because we only have a certain number of characters to fit in a headline. So if you're a farmer, please, I implore you, don't slap me in the story. I'll try to remember. Or facility, whatever, facility, project, complex, whatever. I'll try to avoid farm because I don't want to.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. So it's, but it's a fact. Yeah, and then the one that's further up, you might see that from the road. There is an access road that goes in maybe several hundred feet or more. But even that one's going to be hard to see. It's going to be surrounded by trees and shrubs and stuff. So, yeah, that's why the town did the moratorium. We wanted to make sure that the residents that live up there, it's all residential.
Right. Is it moratorium till further notice, or is it?
No, we ended it in January. At the end of January, we were done with it, and we passed the new town laws.
All right, so no more.
No more.
Okay. One other thing, and we only have about 2 minutes left.
Wow.
But until I went over there yesterday looking for the work, I guess I had forgotten that Glenwood Cemetery is owned by the town of Dickinson.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we inherited that over 20-some years ago. It was horrible condition. We took it over and we made it into I think, a very beautiful cemetery. There's still a few plots up there for sale. If anybody's interested, call the town. And it's a lot of work. And,
I saw town employees working there yesterday.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of, lawn cutting and trimming and trees fall down and taking care of it and trying to identify plots that are up there that haven't been identified in years. And John Wilkes Booth, his daughter's buried up there.
I think I heard that.
Yeah, she's up there. I found the gravesite. It's like towards a bank.
How many other municipalities in Broome County currently own cemeteries?
Well, Shenango has a bunch.
Really?
Most of theirs are filled. I think we have 100 plots left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Social services, there's one section for them up there.
Yeah. I think I knew, but then when I entered it said, Glenwood Cemetery, owned by the town of Dickinson, I said, well, it shows that even when I think I know it all, I don't know quite all.
We didn't want it. But
as it happened.
You're forced to take it.
Yeah, well, it's the way things worked out. Anyway, great to have you back in the studio.
Great to be back.
And thank you for updating us on several things going on in the town of Dickinson.
Thank you.
It's 10:55. This is Bob Joseph live on News Radio, WNBF. By the way, bulletin to all other town supervisors. You're all welcome on the program. Quick. Call in now and reserve your spot. All town supervisors. Right, Michael?
Calling all town supervisors.
Yeah. Come on in. It's fun.
Bob's a good guy.
And there are great questions. It's 10:56. You're listening to News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com. Back to the phones we go. And this is Dave in Vestal. Welcome to our program.
Yeah, good morning there, Bob. Man-eater. Now, how do you like your man cooked, Bob?
Personally, I had a witty little quip that I was just about to launch, and then I said, I don't want to have a meeting this afternoon with anybody, local or corporate. So you can imagine the kind of line that probably was about to be launched, but fortunately, because I choose to exercise a certain amount of discretion, we'll just move on. So what else is going on?
Okay, but hey, the reason why I called is I heard you mention you were wondering what the odds would be for a Trump conviction. And Bob, I will play your local odds maker. Bob, first of all, you have to factor in, the trial location and the politics involved and the left-wing, prosecutor, judge, and yes, the jury. You'd like to think the jury would be fair, but remember, in Manhattan, Trump received a mere 13% of the votes. So if the trial were held in a more neutral place, the odds of conviction would be about 10%. And given where we're at, Bob, here are my odds. If there weren't two lawyers on the jury, I would put conviction at about 80%, hung about 15%, and not guilty about 5%. But because of the two lawyers, Bob, I'm putting conviction at about 50%, hung jury about 35%, and not guilty about 15%. Sound about right to you?
I think the likelihood, I'd say it's virtually certain he's not going to be convicted of any of the counts. Virtually certain. Now, whether he's acquitted or whether it's a hung jury, I don't know. I could see either. Probably a hung jury might be more likely. Say conviction next to 0, because even the person who's not paying close attention will understand if he's convicted, he's only going to use it to raise more money and propel himself back into the White House. So I'm thinking even the people in Manhattan who might think he's guilty as sin will probably say, well, yeah, I'm going to vote for not guilty because I don't want him to, put out within seconds of the verdict that, look, this rigged system convicted me, so now send me more money.
Well, he's going to be guilty of being Donald Trump. That's what he's going to be guilty of.
He's proud of it. The guy wears his guilt on his sleeve, even in the summer. You ought to go to short sleeves. But the guy is incorrigible. He's nothing's going to. Let's be honest. May we be honest, please?
We may be.
Nothing's going to change with him. Nothing will ever change. A conviction, an acquittal, he's still going to be the same irascible, the same lovable, the same undefinable former guy. And even when or if he winds up being elected in November and he shows up again at his old home, still going to be the former guy in the eyes of many.
You left out genius, Bob. And you know,
yeah, I did. I left out genius. He certainly. I mean, when it comes to the system, and we know, how can I put this delicately without offending our sensitive viewers? We know exactly how he uses the system.
I've used brilliantly the laws of the country.
So he's a genius, but that doesn't make it right.
But he does what a lot of people like him do. He just says it out loud. The others don't. That's the difference, Bob.
Well, the other thing, and we've talked about this on the program over the last several years, one of the reasons why he endears himself to 23% of American adults is because he says the kind of things that they're thinking. He says the kind of things they don't dare say.
That's true.
Because let's face it, if I said most of the things he said, or if you did, anybody who's not a billionaire from Queens would be in a heck of a lot of trouble. He's one of the few people who can get away with it.
He gets away with more. Bob, speaking of odds, where would you put the odds now? Now that the way the judge has set this up, they get to go away for a whole week. You got a holiday weekend coming up. And tell me, Bob, what are the odds that none of the jurors are going to watch TV, listen to the radio, talk with their friends, relatives at barbecues? What are the odds of that? You know it's going to be discussed.
Of course it will. What can you do? That's life. I don't expect people to do the unthinkable, to go 6 days without listening to the news. I mean, I did go a couple years ago when I was on vacation. I went actually nearly 10 days without listening or reading to the news. It's not easy. No, it's not easy, especially for a newsaholic.
Bob, and I couldn't do it either. I'd have a hard time doing that. I've got to, Bob. I get stacks of papers. I listen to everything, watch everything I can. But, you know, so who do you think it helps, Bob, by them having this much time? Does it help the prosecution or does it help Trump? For them having
makes no difference. It makes zero difference. I'm telling you, the guy isn't going to be convicted. It doesn't make a difference. They could start the deliberations now. They could wait until after November, even regardless whether he gets elected or whether he gets defeated. It makes no difference when the deliberations take place. In my personal opinion, he's not going to get convicted. Now, and people say, yeah, Bob, we've heard when you have said things on the air and you sounded so certain of yourself that it made us sick, and then just the opposite happened. I agree. The opposite can happen. I'm just telling you what my current sense of things is. You know, hey, for all I know, they could start deliberations next Tuesday afternoon and come back with a guilty verdict on all counts. I don't foresee it happening. I just don't think anybody has the stomach. I don't have the stomach. I don't want this guy convicted of anything. I don't want him convicted of jaywalking in downtown Binghamton because he's only going to parlay it into, I'm a victim. It fits his victim narrative, and he's not a victim of anything.
Well, speaking of jaywalking, but if he did that in Manhattan, Bob, they'd have him on trial.
Right. If he jaywalked in Manhattan on Fifth Avenue, he might be on trial. If he shot a guy on Fifth Avenue, they'd be like, oh, look at the former guy. He knows how to use a gun. Wow. He said he could do it, and he would become more popular. Look at him. He's the almighty. And again, that speaks more about how far we have fallen as a society. It says more about that than about him as the almighty Teflon Don.
That's true, Bobby. But you would also have to agree that the chance of a hung jury is much more greater than all 12 of them saying not guilty.
I don't know. Maybe. maybe not. I don't know. It's probably true, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
If the problem, and one of the reasons no attorney really would want me on a jury for anything, is I always have a few more questions. So I served on a jury once, and I'm not going to tell you the case, but it was a local case, and for some reason they seated me on the jury even though I hosted America's Finest Talk Show. I mean, as far as I know the judge knew me and knew basically about my attitude problem. At least one of the attorneys knew me and was aware of my, shall we say, lot in life. I'm not sure about the defense attorney. He wasn't from Binghamton, so I'm not sure if he knew me. But anyway, against all odds, I got seated on a jury, and I thought it was fun. I followed very, very to the letter the judge's instructions, and I was glad I was seated on a jury. I was always under the impression there would be zero chance I could ever sit on a jury in a criminal case, but hey, it happened. It was a dream come true.
I could pitch you becoming difficult during deliberation. I could pitch you that.
I can't tell you what happened in the jury room. I can tell you the only disappointment was that I wasn't the foreperson. You know, I mean, not that it made a difference, but I wanted to be the one. You know, when all eyes in the court turned to the foreperson of the jury, and what say you? And I'd be like, wait, hey, hang on, I got to check my notes. Let me see. And the judge and the defendant and the attorneys and my fellow jurors would all roll their eyes and say, get him out of here. Get him out of here. He thinks, they would all say, probably simultaneously, dude, it's not about you. It's about justice in America.
Bob, before I go real quick, let me ask you, what I'm trying to figure out here is, what they're charging him with is actually a misdemeanor, and they're trying to bump it up to a felony with something, but they can't announce what the crime is, Bob. They can't tell Trump or his attorneys. They can't even tell the public what is the crime. Bob, have you ever heard anything like that? I mean, is it like we'll know it when we see it? I mean, I don't get it.
Sure, you see this on Law and Order all the time. Tune in, NBC.
Have a good day.
Yeah, keep an eye on Mariska, if you wish. It's 11:22. This is Bob Joseph serving America from a tiny studio surrounded by concrete, steel, and glass somewhere in North America. Broadcasting live at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and heard globally on the WNBF app. Binghamton Now continues for your viewing pleasure. At 11:26, Nikki in Johnson City. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. I wanted to shift the topic a little from politics over to the 201.
Oh, thank goodness. Not a moment too soon.
So I was curious. The cow that's on the 201, Rita, I'm curious where she went because it said she's on a cowcation. And I was just hoping that she's not going to move anywhere.
I don't know, but to me it all sounds like some sort of slick marketing gimmick that they're just trying to get people to talk about so they can sell whatever. I think they're selling widgets or burgers, whatever they're trying to sell. I mean, I think it's odd that these people putting up cows out there are trying to sell burgers and widgets. You know, you would think that they would come up with something other than a cow, but hey, if you want to sell burgers using a cow, good for you.
This is the cow that's on the 201 on the hill?
Yeah. Yeah, they're selling burgers over at some burger stand on the Parkway, I guess.
What? Okay.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know everything that goes on around here, but somebody told me one time they pointed up there and said, look, there's Elsie the cow. And I said, it's not Elsie. She was involved with that glue sniffing caper up in Chenango County before Borden's bought the Elmer's glue stand. But yeah, I definitely saw a cow up there. I think they're trying to sell more burgers. Maybe it's those What do they have now? 10 guys? 10 guys burgers over in Vestal?
Yeah, it's better than Five Guys?
Well, because of inflation, thanks to Joe Biden. I'm old enough to remember when you could get a burger over there for $8, but now I'm afraid to go. I'm afraid to go because the burger might cost, for all I know, $25, $30 thanks to Biden.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right.
Let's hope the cow doesn't come back with 2 patties and cheese, right?
Well, let's hope that it doesn't become a mad cow. If I have to see a cow foaming at the mouth, I'll probably have to call the authorities.
Well, put it on the news, too.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, something about a mad cow, and I'm thinking, if those 10 guys think they're going to sell burgers by putting up a cow up on a hill, well, of course they will. I was going to buy a burger anyway, although, like I say, I haven't been there. What I like about the burgers down over at the 10 Guys, they're delicious burgers, and you can order them any way you want. And then they give you a bag full of fries. So you buy a burger made to order, and then they give you enough fries to feed, I'd say, a family of 12 comfortably. Andy from Vestal, you're on the air.
Hey, Bob. Good morning. I wanted to ask you. I voted in the Vestal School Board election yesterday, and when I was in the proposals and stuff. But I was interested. I see that the budget won, but I also had a question that I could not find. Who were the candidates who won? Because I tried to pull up on the internet on various sources. I know it might even be your website as well, but I didn't know if you seem to have maybe a smarter computer than I have. But do you have access to who actually were the 3 candidates who won for the school board?
Well, why don't you check out Action News? They would know.
I checked Action News.
Well, call Action News. Call the Action Newsroom. They probably have all the results up on their news deck.
Okay. Whatever.
I'm just looking now here at the Vestal website because Vestal Central School District.
And I was in Vestal Central School District this morning.
Yeah.
And then maybe they don't have people, posting it immediately. I don't know.
I'm looking on the website. Here's what they have. Food services, athletics, report bullying, calendars, employment, student registration, newsletters, and newsletters and press releases. I'll click on that. I bet that's where they put it. Nope, last news release is April 30th. So I don't know. It's like I say, go up to Action News and stop by the news deck. I bet they've got the results right there.
Well, I'll go one better than that. I'm about a block away from the school system right now. I'm going to have to pay a bill anyway.
Okay. Well, if by chance you find out before noon who the winners are, feel free to call in. I'd like to know.
All right. Very good.
Thank you, Andy. Vinny from Binghamton, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bob. Good morning. Hey, I heard your conversation, and you guys and a caller were talking about Donald Trump, and I heard the word genius come up, and I said, "Oh, geez, let me call. let me try to let me remind people." Donald Trump learned a lot of his moves from George Bush. I've said this before. I don't know why we try to act like he's so smart. No, he learned this from George Bush. First of all, he knew there's only one party he could get away with this in. That was the Republican Party. I mean, you got to think about George Bush. He led us into the wrong country after the wrong guy. They had nothing to do with 9/11. We killed the wrong guy, and the reason why we went in there is because we had to find weapons of mass destruction. Guess what? There wasn't any. And then not only that, after that, I go on top of the say mission accomplished on the USS Abraham Lincoln. I say mission accomplished. We didn't even catch the mastermind behind 9/11, but yet he goes. People sit there and listen to him. And then after that, he sets up this thing with Homeland Security. Oh, yellow alert. Oh, red alert. Oh, orange, Remember that? Remember that nonsense? And Trump solicited, my God, this guy got away with murder. It took 10 years later for the Obama and Joe Biden administration to go get the main killer.
I know. Let's not relitigate that. I'm tired of hearing about it. But two things come to mind, though. Colin Powell and what's-her-face with the New York Times. They were also complicit.
Oh, I know that. But what I'm trying to say is he learned this from that. So let's not give him more credit than he deserves. This has been done before, just a little bit slicker. And that's my point. I know. I don't want to really talk about that or do anything about that anymore either.
Yeah, but here's what I will say. I will say that I'll never forget these immortal words that the former guy uttered on October 2nd, 2019.
There are those that think I'm a very stable genius, okay?
See? There are those that think I'm a very stable genius. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not passing judgment, and he didn't. I think so. The reason, and let's play that one more time. I'll play a little bit where I just took out a little snippet. Let's play the full 9 seconds so people can understand the context.
I watch my words very carefully. There are those that think I'm a very stable genius, okay? I watch my words very, very closely.
So, again, as we parse the statement, he didn't say he's a stable genius. He said there are those that think he's a very stable genius. Now, I don't know who those people are. I would love to interview them to find out what prompts them to think this guy, of all guys, former or present or future, why they think this guy is a very stable genius, because I don't see in the public record, Vinny, I see no evidence that this guy is a very stable genius.
Me either.
And again, but I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, nor am I. I'm not saying that somehow he's worse than me. No, he's better than I am. But still, very stable genius? Who came up with that assessment? I'd like a list of names.
Well, that part I don't know, but like I said, I do give it to him. This is my plus for Donald Trump. He knew that this was the only party he could get away with doing what he does. Only party. He would have been gone long time ago in the Democratic Party. Long time ago. He never would have made it. But in this party, it's very easy.
Well, because it's a grand old party.
Well, it's been done before.
Yeah, well, of course it's been done before. Sadly. Appreciate your call. Thank you, sir. More calls are coming up, so if you haven't been on the air yet, watch out. There still is time. If you call 607-772-1290. Bob Joseph, I have a phone and a microphone and a transmitter. I think that's all I need with WNBF. Back to the phones we go. Ron in Vestal, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. I just want to let you know that there's a event going on tomorrow night. It will be the first event since 1980. And if this is News Radio 88 or News Radio 1290, excuse me, I figured I better let you guys know. Oh, boy. For the first time since 1980, there is going to be a presidential rally in the Bronx, New York. And Donald Trump will be holding it tomorrow night. And I haven't heard you guys talk about it, so I figured I better let you know.
Oh, that's great. What time will it start?
I believe at around 6 o'clock or so. So you'll have plenty of time to get down there to cover it.
Where's the street? Give me the exact street address so I can punch it into my GPS.
I don't think it's on the street. It's in Crotona Park. And
it's going to be at 6 p.m. Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Now, do I have to register online on the web?
I don't believe so.
I would like to go down there. I haven't been into the Bronx in such a long time. By the way, do you know anything about the Yankees schedule? Are they playing tomorrow night? Because I could combine this. I could cover the rally, and then I could go over to Yankee Stadium to cheer on the Bombers.
Let me think. Let's see.
Let me check the Yankee schedule. Hold on.
Seattle yesterday, last night, and tonight.
Unfortunately, I guess they're
last night and the night before. I can't remember if they're playing a 2 or 4 game series.
Yeah, tomorrow. Oh, it's an afternoon game tomorrow. Too bad. They're playing tomorrow at 12:35. You know what I can do? I hope the management isn't listening. If I call in sick tomorrow, I can call my friend who's a Yankee fan and ask him to meet me down at the stadium because it's a 12:35 game. I guess it's getaway day. So the Yankees will be hosting the Mariners at 12:35. I can meet my friend at noon outside the stadium. Of course, that means tomorrow we'll probably have a substitute host. Michael Marinaccio indicated he might like to host the show. I'll give him a call, see if he'll fill in. So I could watch the game, probably be over by about 4, and even with traffic, probably actually, I'm guessing walk.
From
the stadium to the park. So it sounds like I have a plan for my Thursday.
But Bob, even better, you can still do the show. Just get in your car, get on your phone, and do the show from your phone.
Oh, like a remote broadcast.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be funny? So I start the show. This is the way things go. Because, of course, I'll be listening to WCBS 880 News. Or will I? No, I'll alternate.
No, Bob. WABC. You need to listen to WABC in the morning.
Yeah, but I need traffic and weather together. So what I need...
Sit in Friends in the morning. You'll get all your traffic, all your weather, and you also will get Curtis Sliwa.
Oh, maybe I'll call Sid. I want to talk to Sid, and then I'll talk to Sliwa. You know what? And just between you and me, I am steamed. You know the guy who owns WABC, Katz, the big cat?
Yeah.
So he really, really pushed me to the brink a few days ago when he fired Rudy Giuliani.
Yes, he did.
Giuliani was doing an hour-long radio show every day, and it was one of the best shows on 77 WABC talk radio. And then the cat, the big cat, who owns the place, he fires America's mayor.
Well, now you have to listen to New York City's People's Mayor, Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah, I love Curtis Sliwa, and I'll tell you why. I love that he always has the latest style red beret. One time Curtis Sliwa, I think, I don't know if he actually said he was going to bring his Angels up to Binghamton one time. Remember one time crime got out of control in Binghamton, and there was a rumor that Curtis Sliwa was going to bring up some Angels to rectify things, but somebody sent a message to Curtis Sliwa saying, no, keep your Angels in New York City.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
Well, that's too bad because, the thing about Curtis Sliwa, I think the one thing Curtis and I have in common is we both love talk radio.
Oh, yes. And he's on with Sid every day, every weekday at about 7:15 in the morning.
Okay, maybe I'll listen tomorrow morning as I'm heading down to the city. The biggest problem I have with going into the city, and it's a constant irritant, is the traffic at the GW. I mean, this morning it wasn't bad. I was listening to the traffic and weather together, and I think there was only about a 30-minute delay inbound. But last week, I don't remember what day last week, the backup was more than 2 hours. They had, as they say on Traffic and Weather Together, the euphemism is called police activity.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine every time I hear in a New York City radio traffic report, police activity, your mind starts to imagine what kind of activity that is.
Well, you don't have to use the GW. Take the Tappan Zee or take the Mid-Hudson across to the Taconic and go down that way.
Yeah, well, maybe I will. I still love racing through Pennsylvania and Jersey, though.
Okay, well.
All right.
But anyway.
Well, if you don't hear... So here's the thing. Yes, I like the idea about me doing the show from the road and sort of the Bobmobile in the mobile studio, and I could give people updates where I am. Okay, I'm on 380 now, about ready, getting closer and closer and closer to the Delaware Water Gap. Hey, Jersey, hi. In New Jersey, and what I'll say about this, I don't have a lot of great things to say about New Jersey, the Garden State, but at least there you don't have to pump your gas.
That's right.
In fact, they won't even let you. If I show them I've got a car, the Bobmobile has New York plates, New York registration, and if I show them that I'm a New York driver and I know how to pump my own gas, they'll probably arrest me if I try to tank up in Hackensack.
Bob, one time I can remember this as clear. I was getting gas myself, okay, and this lady comes up to me and she says, I'm in a lot of trouble. I says, why? She says, I don't know how to pump the gas. So I walk over to her car and I look, and I saw the Jersey plates. And I said, okay, I understand. So I pumped her gas for her. And I said, now you got to go inside and pay your bill. And I left it that way.
Well, it's funny. About 2 weeks ago, I was at a local establishment where gas was being sold, and I had finished fueling my Bobmobile, and the vehicle right in front of me, a beautiful SUV with Jersey plates, the guy was starting to pump his own gas. So I struck up a conversation, and very well-dressed man, and I thought, I think I know him. I think I know him from someplace.
Really?
And the first thing I said as a conversation starter, I said, something like, nice morning. And I said, gee, I see are you from New Jersey? And he said, well, he had been, but now he works here. It turns out I knew who he was, but had never met him. Actually, he might be on the program at some point. And I said, well, back home in New Jersey, you never were able to pump your own gas. And he just laughed and said, yeah, but it's not that hard. He said, I have been able to learn how to pump my own gas, and it's really, shockingly, it's not that difficult to do. So we exchanged pleasantries, but it was kind of funny. It was just 2 or so weeks ago, and I gave him my business card, and I said, at some point, I may have you on the program. And he said, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Anyway.
Okay, Bob, listen.
Yeah.
One last thing. I'll be listening to you for your report on Friday on the rally.
All right. Well, thanks for the reminder. By the way, how is Sid doing? Is Sid okay?
He's doing fine. And
Sid, and again, continue.
Supposedly, he has the #1 talk program in the country. It's rated #1.
I've heard him say that, and here's the thing, and it's complicated. I'm not going to get into the weeds here when it comes to that sort of statement. I'll just say when Sid says that, he better be careful, because the people who know about the business know exactly what he means. Now, he might impress the average person outside the industry when he starts talking big like that, but and again, this is so complicated, and it's nothing I could really discuss here on the radio about how ratings work. But basically, Sid had better watch himself, because someday somebody is going to explain it all, and people say, oh, Sid, you're just a blowhard. This is not to take away anything from Sid and his success. I mean, he's doing great now at WABC, and I'm happy for him. I'm just saying he ought to do less blowing his own horn like that, because the people in the industry hear it, and they just shake their heads saying, Sid, that's apropos of nothing. You may, because again, ratings are so complicated and we can't talk about it, but, you know, Sid does a show every day, like any talk show. It stands on its own. It's obviously people love the show. People love Sid, and I'm happy. I think he's found a good home at WABC with the Big Cat. And I also thank the Big Cat, Katz, who owns the thing, for putting on more local hosts. I mean, whether it's Sid or Curtis Sliwa, or up until a few days ago, Rudy Giuliani. And so he has done, because Katz loves radio. You know, he's fortunate that he has enough money from his grocery store empire that he's able to have bought WABC. And I think he's improved tremendously the content of the station. So I'm all for him. Sounds like I'm in the market for a weekend job at WABC Talk Radio. And you know what? I bet I could land one. And I'm not looking to do that because I've got my hands full here Monday through Friday. But honestly, I bet if I called up Katz and told him how much I love radio, I bet within 5 or 10 minutes, either I could wind up with an occasional weekend slot or even a fill-in slot, say, not necessarily Sid, but say Sid or Curtis, if they're on vacation or something. Hey, if you want to drive down from Binghamton and fill in for one of these guys, you're more than welcome. I wouldn't be surprised if Katz would say, go ahead, give it a shot.
Do you know who he has on Saturday morning? Remember Bo Snerdley?
Yeah, yes. That's right. He's on, and you know who he has on Saturday nights? The music show.
Yeah.
Cousin Brucey.
Yes, that's right. Oh, yeah. This is wonderful. I'm thinking now back in the old days of WABC, and I'm talking in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, with the good guys.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Cousin Brucey, Dan, everybody. Even the guy who was on overnights who did the live spots for the clothing store.
I can't.
Yeah, and I can't think of his name now, but he had these. Boy. It was the only ad. I mean, it's hard to sell radio spots in the middle of the night because there's not that big an audience. But they used to do live spots on WABC, and they were so.
Oh, Bob, I can't remember.
Oh, it was Dennison's Clothing Store. Dennison's Clothing Store.
Okay.
And on the overnight show, they had the ad copy was so wacky. And unless you ever heard it, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But it was like the most bizarre live spots. And this men's clothing store, for some reason, they were open, I think, 20 hours a day. They were open till 5 a.m. So they would open at 9, and then they would be open till 5 o'clock the next morning. And they ran these spots. And, that's just the way it was. So anyway, thanks for the memories.
And thank you, Bob. I appreciate it.
Okay. Now, whether or not I can actually make it to the rally tomorrow night, to be honest, I don't think I'm going to get there. But I'm going to pay attention to it. I see New York Post says people are enthusiastic. This is a story in the New York Post. Enthusiastic Bronx residents ready to welcome the candidate for first New York City campaign rally in 8 years. A story by Diana Glubova and Max Rivera says the Thursday evening rally in the Bronx is generating excitement and anticipation in the traditionally New York City blue borough. Blue, I guess, means Democrat. Post took to the streets to get reactions to the first major campaign event in his birth state for 8 years to see what kind of attraction his message might get in the Bronx, which hasn't gone for the GOP in 100 years.